I didn't mean to say it out loud, but there it was, like blood spilling from a paper cut, too fast and too red to ignore. "I was in love with you," I whispered, not realizing my mother had unmuted my mic during the Zoom memorial. Everyone froze. It was like someone had hit pause on a movie mid-scene, mid-breath. The chat exploded, his sister gasped, and I could hear someone drop a glass in the background. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I might throw up right there in front of all 117 black squares. Family, friends, church elders, exes I didn't know were invited. All of them now staring into the digital void, trying to reconcile my quiet confession with the image of Marcus they'd curated so carefully. Straight, God-fearing, forever closeted, even in death. The thing is, I never meant to speak at his memorial. Hell, I never meant to even attend. But I was 3 bourbons deep, scrolling through my inbox when I saw his name one last time in bold letters: invitation, celebration of life for Marcus John Thatcher. And just like that, I clicked. I hadn't seen Marcus in 2 years, not since we stopped talking, not since he ghosted me after the night we kissed in the back of his rusted Honda Civic while snow choked the windshield and his hands trembled so badly I thought he'd break. I wrote him a letter the next morning, not a text. Not an email, a real letter folded twice, sealed with wax because he loved that kind of stupid romantic crap. I poured everything into that letter, every what if, every secret glance, every almost. I never sent it. I tucked it behind a floorboard in my closet like it was a curse that might explode if anyone ever read it. Until now it had been mine and mine alone. The twist, that letter, the one I never mailed, never mentioned, never even named, was in the slideshow. Slide 43 of 63, right between his graduation photo and the picture of him holding his newborn niece. My handwriting, my words, read aloud in a shaky voice by his Aunt Sharon. "I don't know how to love someone like you," she read, "but I think I already do." I stared at the screen in horror as she continued, line after line, like some ghost of me had crawled up through the internet and hijacked this carefully sanitized ceremony. I could feel my ears burning, my skin crawling, because I never told anyone about that letter. Not even my therapist, not even myself, not fully. And yet there it was, his name smudged at the bottom in tear-warped ink. And the worst part, Sharon said she found it in his wallet, folded so small it was practically tissue. I should have been angry, but instead I felt a kind of hollow disbelief. The same sensation I had the night I kissed him. How do you even process the fact that someone you loved so deeply, someone you thought you'd never see again, carried your secret in their back pocket like a cherished trinket, something worth saving? The shock of seeing my words, the raw vulnerability I had carefully buried, now made public, was so suffocating I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what hurt more, that Marcus had kept my letter or that he never gave me the chance to know what that meant. If he'd wanted to, he could have reached out. He could have given me a sign, a shred of something, anything to let me know. But no, he'd slipped away just like always, quietly, without a word, a disappearing act so practiced it almost felt like a ritual. But here's the twist I didn't expect. Right as Sharon finished reading the last line, a new voice popped up in the Zoom chat, a name I didn't recognize: Marcus's best friend from college. His message was short and brutally to the point. "He never stopped loving you. Kept that letter on him for years. I found it the day after he passed." My pulse spiked. I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of it, but before I could even process his words, the video call chimed with a sudden, strange notification. Marcus had left me a message. I knew it wasn't possible. He was dead. But I clicked it anyway, trembling, and there it was, a recorded voice note. My throat tightened, the glass of bourbon in my hand now empty. I was shaking as I hit play. It was him. The voice I hadn't heard in ages, the one that used to call me in the middle of the night when he'd had too much to drink and needed someone to remind him he wasn't alone. I could hear the gravel in his voice, the warmth I had always loved. "I don't know how to say this, and I'm terrified of it, but I think I might be in love with you too," he said, each word a weight that dragged me under. "But it's too late now. I don't know how to fix the mess I made. You were always the one who made me feel seen, even when I was too scared to admit it to myself." The recording cut off abruptly, like he'd run out of time or maybe courage. The screen went black, and I was left frozen, staring at my phone as the sound of his voice echoed in my head over and over again. How was this possible? How could he have kept this from me even after death? How could I have been so blind to everything he hadn't said? I didn't speak for a full minute, maybe two. The silence on the call was deafening. My heart raced, and I could hear the hum of the digital world around me, voices muted in shock, faces frozen in their pixelated boxes, all of them waiting for me to respond. But what was there to say? How do you explain something that feels like an emotional time bomb, ticking away with every word Marcus never had the courage to speak? I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to claw my way through the screen and reach him, even though I knew I couldn't. I hadn't been prepared for this moment. No one had. How was it that even in death, Marcus was still controlling the narrative, still making the decisions that left me gasping for air? I glanced down at my phone, still showing the audio message. There was something else there, a strange little notification, one new file received. It was a photo sent by Mark, the college friend. Hesitant, my fingers trembling, I tapped the image and watched as it loaded. It was a picture of a half-open drawer. Nothing special at first glance, but then I noticed what lay inside. There, wedged between receipts and an old packet of gum, was a folded piece of paper, my letter. The same one I'd written years ago, the one I thought I had buried so deeply in my own heart that it could never see the light of day. My breath caught in my throat as I zoomed in on the photo. The handwriting, my handwriting, was unmistakable, but the photo was only the beginning. The caption beneath it read, "Found this after his passing." But that's not the only thing, you need to see the rest. I blinked, confused, and then opened the next image Mark sent. It was a picture of the letter, now unfolded, spread out across Marcus's kitchen table. Beneath the lines of my words, a note was scrawled: "I never told you the truth. I wish I had. I'm sorry. I love you, but I was scared." It was his handwriting. He had written back. I wasn't imagining it. He had read my letter, had acknowledged what I poured into it, and in his quiet way had responded. But it was too late, too fucking late. He was gone, and now I was left with fragments of a love story that had never even begun. The final blow, the bottom of the note contained a small, hastily drawn map. "I want you to find me," it read. "There's something you need to see." My mind raced, but my body was paralyzed. What did that even mean? Find him. He was dead. How could I possibly go to him when there was nothing left to hold on to but memories and what ifs? I don't know how long I sat there, frozen, staring at that map, trying to convince myself it wasn't some cruel joke, some bizarre twist of fate that made no sense at all. But I couldn't shake the feeling, like a tugging at my gut, pulling me towards something I couldn't understand, something I couldn't ignore. Every rational part of me screamed that it was impossible, that the map was some last-ditch effort from Marcus's ghost to torment me from beyond the grave. But then I remembered the night we had spent together, the way he had held my hand like a secret, like a promise, even when his lips were too scared to form the words. We had always danced around the truth, each step unsure, as if we both knew it was too dangerous to step too far into the light. But now there was this cryptic message that felt too real, too personal to dismiss. Without thinking, I closed my laptop and grabbed my coat. The cold night air hit me like a slap in the face as I stepped outside, the world around me swallowed in darkness. I don't know what I was expecting, but every step toward Marcus's apartment felt like a leap into the unknown, a descent into something I couldn't control. I tried to talk myself out of it, tried to convince myself it was all a figment of my imagination, that I was just mourning the loss of someone who had never really been mine. But the closer I got, the heavier the air felt, like something was waiting for me there. As I turned the corner, Marcus's building came into view, its windows dark and empty. But there beneath the faded porch light stood Mark, the last person I ever thought I'd see at this hour. His eyes were red and his face was grim. "Thought you might show up," he said, his voice low and shaky, as if he'd been waiting for this moment, for me to come, for me to do what I'd always done, search for answers. "You're not going to like what's inside." His words hung in the air like a warning, but there was no going back now. I nodded, unable to form a response, as he handed me a key to the building. The twist, I hadn't even realized I knew this key existed. It was identical to the one I had used to sneak into Marcus's place back when we were young and stupid, back when the world felt smaller, when his hands fit perfectly in mine. Mark must have seen the recognition in my eyes because he gave me a small, bitter smile. "He never really let go of you, but it wasn't just love he kept hidden. You need to see this for yourself." As I walked through the dark hallways, each step echoing in the silence, my mind spun. What was I about to uncover? What had Marcus left behind, and why was I the one chosen to find it? The apartment door creaked as I pushed it open, and the stale, empty air hit me first, a smell of dust and regret, like something hadn't been touched in a lifetime. It felt wrong, too quiet. Marcus's things were still scattered around, as if he'd left in a hurry, though the only person who could have known why was gone. Mark led me through the dimly lit apartment, his footsteps heavy on the wooden floor, until we stopped at a closet near the back. It was a small, unassuming space tucked away behind a closed door, but the moment Mark unlocked it, the world inside seemed to shift. The closet was lined with shelves filled with boxes, books, old receipts, trinkets that once belonged to Marcus's life. And at the very back, shoved between two dusty photo albums, was a worn leather journal. Marcus's journal. The one he'd always said was off limits, too personal even for me to see. My hands shook as I reached for it, a mix of fear and curiosity flooding me in waves. The cover was weathered, the pages yellowed with time. I opened it cautiously, but what I found inside made my heart stop. It wasn't just a collection of thoughts or day-to-day entries. No, it was a detailed record of everything Marcus had never told me, every emotion he had bottled up for years, his struggles with his identity, his fear of being outed, the suffocating pressure he'd felt from his family, from the world. And in the back, in smudged ink, were the words that shattered me. I love you, but I am too broken to be the man you need me to be. It was a confession, his confession. The one he had buried with all of his other secrets, the one he thought he could keep hidden forever. Tears welled up in my eyes as I read, as the weight of his words settled on me like a crushing wave. He had loved me just like I had loved him, but we had never given ourselves a chance. He had been afraid, terrified of the life we could have built together, scared of what others would think. And I, in my own way, had been just as scared, but now all I had was a pile of broken pieces. The map, the letter, the journal, everything pointed back to one thing. Marcus had been struggling, fighting an internal war that none of us had seen, and he had tried to reach out to me to tell me the truth. But it was too late. He was gone, and I was left here, holding the fragments of a love story that had never truly been. I closed the journal and sank to my knees, the weight of it all too much to bear. Mark stood there, his eyes soft with understanding, but there was nothing left to say. No final words, no grand resolution, just the hollow echo of a love that had never had the chance to breathe. And in that moment I understood Marcus's message wasn't about closure, it wasn't about finding answers. It was about the space he left behind, the places in me he had touched, and the parts of me he had made feel alive. He had given me his truth just as I had given him mine. Even if we'd never had the chance to speak it out loud, we had shared it. And maybe that was enough after all.